Hello, 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 and welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. My name is Anthony Carter. Happy Tuesday. I am the host, producer, creator, madman, genius, and creative mad madman behind a movement entitled That Plant Life, a movement dedicated to supporting Black men 40 to 60 who are committed to combating hypertension without the use of medication and the addition of a whole food plant based lifestyle. Let me say that once again for the cheap seats in the back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. My name is Anthony Carter. I am the host, producer, madman, creative genius, and brilliant mind behind a movement entitled That Plant Life, a movement dedicated to supporting Black men 40 to 60 who are committed to combating hypertension without the use of medication and the addition of a whole food plant based lifestyle. Welcome. Come on in. The title of my talk tonight is The Two Things I Had to Believe Before I Could Successfully Conquer Burnout. So, the two things I had to believe before I could successfully conquer burnout. Now, as many of you know, I talk a lot about, day jobs and creativity and health and that type of thing, right? So when we talk about burnout, I want to talk about the things that I discovered, right? For a very long time, I thought burnout meant, you just had to work harder. I thought it was just part of life, right? Like I'm sure many of you have been taught that, you just kind of keep going, right? Many of us have what they refer to as loss aversion. And what that is when you have put time and energy into something, a project, a relationship, a job, something you're working on. You after you spend so much time and so much energy involved in it, you kind of keep pouring good money after bad, as I used to say when I was growing up, right? You kind of stay in it. You're convinced if I keep working harder, this will work out. That's not how burnout works, right? I heard this from a couple of different people. So usually burnout, my experience with burnout, and I heard this and it triggered something for me. Burnout, the first thing I found out about burnout, the thing that I had to reconfigure was burnout comes from when we are trying to solve the same problem, right? Over and over and over and over again, right? So, for example, we might be at a job, right? And they keep trying to solve the same problem. There's no end date in mind. There's no shelf life. So there's no light at the end of the tunnel, like that at some point we're going to be done with this. That's another talk. I'll talk about that later. However, let me give you something that is diametrically opposed to that. Many, many years ago, I have had, well, many, many years ago, I had a job that I loved, right? I've had a couple of jobs. I've been working since I was 14, so it's a very long time. So I've had a couple of jobs that I really loved, right? The first job that I ever had that I really, really, truly loved, I was working at the phone company in Detroit, right? And I worked in collections, and I absolutely loved it. And people were always shocked. How do you like working in collections? Don't people curse you out or don't they talk crazy to you? Nope, never happened. The 8 months that I worked there, it never happened, not once. Now, let me tell you why I love this job. Keep in mind, I was only making $6 an hour, right? I love this job because there was an end date. When I called people or they called me about their phone bill, they knew they owed the money. I knew they owed the money. You only had a couple of options. You could either pay it and keep your phone service or not pay it and risk having your phone snipped, right? So those are pretty clear options, right? There wasn't a whole lot of back and forth about what are we trying to do and what are we trying to do it and who's involved. The options were simple. You could pay it or you couldn't, right? And that was the end of it. And while I had that job, like I said, it was $6 an hour. That $6 an hour paid for my apartment, it paid for my food, it paid for my first apartment. It also paid for me to go to Japan for the summer. So it did a whole lot. And I loved it. I was just extremely happy. Which leads me to the second thing that I found out that leads us to burnout, which is a lot of times we are not doing enough of the things that we love, right? We're not doing enough of the things we love. So we're on these jobs, we're working, we're in these situations, and we're not doing anything that brings us joy, anything that ignites us, anything that makes us passionate about going in and attacking, right? So, like I said a couple of seconds ago, a minute or so ago, when I was at the phone company, I absolutely loved it, right? I was helping people solve a problem. It was clear cut. Here's another example. When I worked and while I was at the phone company, I was writing, I was producing, I was in a performance group, I was singing all over Detroit in little dive bars. So I was extremely happy, right? I was just thrilled beyond belief and making $6 an hour and no stress. So it can be done. The other thing is, I had another job that I had that I really loved. I worked when I was in California. I worked with the homeless population, right? And when I worked with the homeless population, and then with young people in a community college, once again, loved it. Was very happy. Things had an end date. We made a program. We created a plan with my homeless folks. The plan was, okay, how do we move you from living in a shelter? How do we move you out of living in your car, living in the park? How do we get you out of that situation and to getting a bank account? How do we get you from having a bank account to saving money, to moving yourself forward, to going back to school, to getting a job of your dreams? We used to call it supporting people and becoming economically self sufficient, right? Love, love, love that job. It was very simple. We made a plan, right? Either people followed the plan or they didn't. They either did it my way or did it their way and kept doing what they were doing. But it was very simple. We were not trying to solve the same problem the same way over and over and over again, right? Very thrilled, right? I was also publishing my own books at that point and writing a heck of a lot, right? So I was doing a lot. So I was doing things that brought me joy and I was doing things that had an end date. So it's not just kind of circling, doing the same thing. My take on it is that many of us, many jobs are doing the same thing over and over and over again. And nobody will say, why are we doing this again? That's a different talk. I'll talk about that at a later date. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here now. Um, do me a favor. If you like this, share it with your friends. If they like it, make sure all of you click. I have a link in um, this post, which allows you to have more access to me. As you may know, I am coaching. I am offering services to Black men 40 to 60 who are interested in combating hypertension. And I've done it. I'm not on any medication. I'm 56. I'm one of the few people, excuse me, I know who is not on medication. So it can be done. And I have a great system that would be willing to help Black men follow in order to have the same type of life, right? Okay, so check out the link that's below. My name is Anthony Carter. I'm the host, producer, madman, creative genius behind That Plant Life, a movement dedicated to supporting Black men 40 to 60 who are committed to combating hypertension without the use of medication and the addition of a whole food plant based lifestyle. Let me say that once more for the cheap seats in the back. My name is Anthony Carter. I'm the host, producer, madman, creative genius, and brilliant mind behind a movement entitled That Plant Life, a movement dedicated to supporting Black men 40 to 60 who are committed to combating hypertension without the use of medication and the addition of a whole food plant based lifestyle. Now, go take care of yourself. Go take care of the ones that you love. Let the ones that love you take care of you. Put some plants on that plate. And most importantly, eat like you got some sense. I'll talk to you soon.